Erica, you're the Rise men's team head coach at the Fly 2023. How does that feel?
It feels great. It feels like a great privilege. It feels like an honor. I'm super excited. Yeah, feels great.
And you've got a lot of coaching experience. You've been with Wales, Exeter University, and then with Great Britain as well in the build up to the World Games. The team obviously played the sixes format at that tournament. But what made you want to apply to be a coach at the Fly?
I think the sixes game in general is just really exciting. It's fast. It's fun. It's new in the sense of we've never played it before in a worldwide setting. And so I think that's just exciting just to kind of see at the World Games how the different nations put their own spin on just strategy, just how they played the game. And yeah, so I think it's just super exciting. And I think the quickness and just the pure athleticism that it kind of takes to be an athlete in the sixes is just it's really exciting for the game of lacrosse.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your coaching experience has largely been in the women's game. But what is the switch to the men's game going to be like for you?
Well, hopefully it's going to be very positive. I think coming from the US, as a high school athlete, I played field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse. And I would say that basketball quite possibly has been my sort of favorite sport growing up. I started playing basketball when I was 5. And I just think that for me, there's so much of the game of basketball that I see in the sixes. And I think that excites me. And so I think the idea of trying to almost put your own spin on sixes, but to be able to do that with a new team and not necessarily looking at as going from the men and the women, just looking at it from the perspective of, hey, this is a brand new game. Let's go see what we can do with a brand new team is kind of how I'm approaching this season.
And what's your coaching philosophy in general? What does an Erica Erb team look like?
Ooh, it's a great question. I mean, you'll find out the first weekend, right? Is May 21st, is that correct?
The 14th.
May 14th. I better not be late. No, I hope the team I think it's gonna be great. I think Elliot Pugh, I think he's gonna be just a really solid kind of person for me to collaborate with and work the sidelines with. And so I'm hoping that we bring a lot of energy, we bring a lot of speed, we bring a lot of fitness, and we just bring a lot of creativity from the guys. I know that the Rise in general, they've been very successful in the wins and loss column. So no pressure to me and Elliot on that. But I think continuing to just do a little bit of what has worked in the past, and obviously we'll add some new players in after we kind of see what the draft looks like, who's applied, who's available. But yeah, no, I hope you see a lot of quickness. I hope you see a lot of fitness. I hope you see creativity. I hope you see a little bit of grit. And I definitely hope you see some resilience in the sense of just 3 weekends. That's a decently long tournament. So I think just having the perspective of playing fast, but also playing for the long game.
And you mentioned Elliot Pugh there. He'll be your assistant coach. Just delve a little bit deeper. How are you looking forward to teaming up with him?
I'm looking forward to picking his brain, to be honest, because I think coming from the box side of things, in general, there's just so much that he's going to bring as a player, but then also coaching it a bit. And so I think I'm just looking forward to just seeing how he sees the game and just some of his kind of strategies, and then just pairing them. Well, what do you think about this? Can we steal this from tens? Can we take this from box? Can we take this from basketball? Can we take this from ice hockey? So no, I'm just very much looking forward to kind of having a good conversation, good collaboration with him.
And now we've already mentioned the World Games, but if you can just cast your mind back, how was that as an experience?
It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. I think any time that I've been given the opportunity to either represent a nation or in this case represent the United Kingdom, it was just a privilege. And I think you can feel as soon as you stepped off of the bus or off of the plane in Birmingham, you just could feel the energy. And I think it was different to the World Championship that had taken place a few days previously in Towson, because there's different athletes there. There's multiple sports. There's tons of different nations. So we went from Towson bringing the best lacrosse players in the world to one spot, which in and of itself was incredible. And then a few days later, we got to get on a plane and go to a different location and bring some of the best athletes in the world together and watch them compete in their expert field, if you will. And so I think it was an incredible experience. Nothing like it.
And there was some top quality teams, top quality athletes, like you say, in the lacrosse tournament at the World Games. Is there anything that you learnt at that tournament from watching the Sixes and some of those best players that you might be able to bring to the Fly?
Let's hope so. That is the plan. That is the plan. No, I think it was really cool to watch a game that was played by the men and then back to back played by the women, and just to see the different styles play out and just to see the different strategies by the different coaches to say, like, okay, they maybe use more of the shot clock, or they looked to hit the fast break every time. They didn't play behind. They looked for the crease. They looked for the overload. And so I think it was just really cool to watch a men's game and then back to back to a women's game. And then pair on top the different nations, to watch a Canada, to watch a US, to watch an England and a UK, a GB. And so I think, just all of those different variables just made it fantastic.
Now, there's only been one player announced so far for your Rise team, and that's Freddie Atkins. He was obviously the Fly champion last year with Rise. What are you hoping that he can bring to the table this year?
I think just experience, a bit of leadership, and I think in general just the philosophy of what did you do last year that worked well, and perhaps what did you do that actually, looking back, we can do better. And so I think just looking to him as the leader, to say, what did you learn? What did you like? And how can we do better this year?
Yeah, and there'll be some more player announcements over the coming weeks, but what sort of player will you be looking to join your team?
I think for Sixes, it's important to have a player that's versatile. I think specialists are key. They're kind of your X factor, but I think just those guys that are able to get up and down the field, that are able to transition from an attacking mindset to play a bit of defense, and equally those that are maybe a bit more comfortable on the defensive end, just giving them an opportunity to kind of get a bit creative with, well, actually, I can do a split dodge just as well as these middies can, so let me just kind of show them what's up here. So I think just a player that's very versatile, but I think kind of just giving themselves an opportunity to evolve as a lacrosse player, because it's a different game. Sometimes I feel like I've seen athletes almost give themselves a bit more grace, a bit more of an opportunity to learn and to grow, versus if it's a tens game, there's more expectation, there's pressure, there's certain kind of boxes that you have to tick, right? Because you've been playing for 10 years, whereas no one's been playing Sixes for 10 years. So it just feels like things open up a bit more to say, like, why can't a defensive specialist also grab a couple goals a game? Why can't they also turn the ball over? Why can't a draw specialist in tens all of a sudden become a crease manager? And so I think it just opens up a lot of opportunity for players that want to grow and for players that want to test themselves to do just that.
You mentioned you got a basketball background.
Sure.
It'd just be interesting to know what you think are the similarities between the basketball game and then the Sixers game as well.
Well, obviously, I think the speed of basketball, I think the idea of putting a man press on, putting a zone press on, playing from end line to end line, it's a lot easier to wrap your head around that in the Sixes format versus the tens format. The smaller field is a bit more forgiving on your fitness, but I also think in Sixes, you utilize the bench so much more because you have to. And the same, not necessarily the same in basketball, but you do have 6, 7, 8 players coming off the bench in basketball that are just as important, that are going to play just as many minutes as those starting 5. Whereas I think in tens, we don't necessarily always have as equal of playing minutes per se within a defender, a midfielder, an attacker. Whereas in Sixes, you're going to use your bench and you're going to use your entire team, and it's not necessarily who's really starting the game, it's who's impacting the game. I think that kind of tells a different story than it does in tens.
And just finally, you sort of touched on it before. Rise has won the Fly each year since its inception. Is there a pressure attached to that for you and for Elliot?
For sure. But I think there has to be. I think that's the nature of sport. But I also think that that's the excitement, because then there's a certain level of expectation that Elliot and I have for ourselves, but there's also a certain level of expectation that the players have for themselves. And I think when you get into that self-motivation, paired with hopefully some new players coming in with fresh blood, with fresh ideas, with fresh creativity, and then you have a guy like Elliot coming on board for the sidelines to say like, hey, let's use this from box. And then you have this women's game coach coming in to say like, hey, can we consider throwing this in? Can we consider throwing this in from basketball, from ice hockey? I think it's exciting, but for sure there's pressure. Of course there is.